Leaving work early on such short notice. That's just not acceptable in the professional world, man. It's because of this irresponsibility that you're still unmarried at 30. He said with a half laugh. If you're gonna leave, you might as well quit the job. Hearing those words, I felt something click inside me. If the company is going to deny me even such important things, then I don't mind quitting at all. Understood. I replied just that and quickly left the office. My name is Michael Johnson, a 30-year-old bachelor. My classmates are in the middle of a marriage boom, and I'm the only single one left among my friends. It's not that I don't want to get married, but if you ask me if I want to do it right now, I'd say not really. I guess it'd be nice to get married someday, I think quite leisurely. Honestly, I haven't had a girlfriend for 5 years, and people around me say I should be more anxious. But I think things will work out as they will. However, whenever I attend gatherings with my classmates, the topic of my marriage inevitably comes up. When I say marriage talk, I'm not doing anything about it. So it's just the others getting excited about what I should or shouldn't do. And when the topic comes up, they always say, Michael, you're living with your mom. That's probably why you can't get a girlfriend, right? That's right. At 30, I'm living with my mother. In my early 20s, I lived alone for a while, and I indeed had a girlfriend back then. But when I was 24, my father passed away suddenly, and I thought my mother would be lonely. Initially, I visited frequently, but it became a hassle, so I moved back to my family home. Since then, I haven't had any particular reason to move out, so I've just been living there. Regardless of the reason, I can somewhat understand that a 32-year-old man still living with his parents is less likely to be chosen as a marriage partner. But I'm not in a hurry, and I don't intend to change my situation.
You used to be the most popular among us. How are you still single?
If you go on like this, you'll end up single and die alone.
Kids are adorable, you know?
It's nice that my friends are happily married, but being constantly rushed about marriage is honestly tiring. Yay, I'll think about it. I reply without really meaning it, just to get through the moment. If our life stages have changed so much that we can't connect, there's the option of ending the friendship. But aside from marriage talk, they're still the fun guys they always were. That's been my only source of worry. But recently, I've had another worry.
That's crazy. You're over 30 and still living with your mother.
Even at my workplace, there's a person who keeps saying that. He's my boss, Morrison. He was transferred from the headquarters in a nearby town. He's 2 years older than me, a married man. I recently saw him looking happy about the birth of his second child. It's natural for him to feel happy about marriage, and I think that's a great thing. But since he found out I'm single and living with my mother, he's started making fun of me every time he sees me.
Living with mommy at your age won't get you any girls. The peak age for men is early 30s, so you better hurry. Women will run away from a guy living with his mom at this age.
I can forgive my friends because I can feel their concern for me. But with Morrison, it feels like he just wants to mock me. So honestly, it's been incredibly unpleasant every day. Please don't say things like that. I respond vaguely since he's my boss, but it's stressful to deal with this repeatedly. Before Morrison arrived, there was nobody who said such things. Is it really that strange not to be married? I've never complained about such things at home, not even during my school days, but I just let it slip out, wanting someone to listen. My mother seemed surprised by my unusual behavior. There was a brief pause before she spoke.
There's nothing weird about it. Whether you choose to live life alone or with someone, there's nothing odd about it if it's your choice.
I sort of knew she would say that, but maybe it was a bit underhanded of me to complain to her, knowing she'd understand. I haven't decided to live alone or anything. I just don't feel like getting married or looking for a partner right now. I think it'd be nice if I felt that way someday. Is that too naive? Mom put down the teacup and chopsticks she was holding and responded.
There's nothing wrong with being naive. Whatever you feel, when you meet someone who you think is the one, it will naturally happen. Whether it's naive or not, it doesn't really matter.
I remember Mom saying that she and Dad fell in love at first sight and got married. I would have already been born when they were my age. But it's precisely because these words come from my mom that I somehow trust them. When that time comes, will I also feel like getting married right away? Later, Mom said, laughing, I'll keep my legs strong, so no matter how old I am when grandkids come, I'll be ready. I hope to give her grandchildren before she becomes an old grandma, all wrinkly. Thinking this way definitely feels positive. It doesn't erase all my doubts about marriage, but I feel much more optimistic than before. Well, at work, I still face the usual unkind words.
Since you're single and girlfriendless, you're okay with overtime, right? I've got my cute wife and kids waiting, so the rest of the work is all yours.
Right at finishing time, Morrison dumped his work on me and left in a hurry. No, I've got plans to eat with friends tonight. I thought to myself, but couldn't say it out loud. He's my boss, and leaving for family versus leaving to hang out with friends certainly gives off different impressions. Feeling the unfairness, I finished Morrison's work and managed to join my friends for drinks 2 hours late. And just as I finished my first beer, I noticed a missed call from Mom on my phone and called her back. She rarely calls me.
Michael, oh, is it your dinner with friends day? Sorry.
She tried to end the call quickly, perhaps hearing the distinctive noise of the bar. No, it's fine. What's up? She sounded a bit apologetic as she asked, could you pick up some sports drinks on your way home? Any time is fine. Enjoy your time with your friends. Mom isn't particularly fond of sports drinks. And since the convenience store isn't that far, asking me to get them could only mean she's not feeling well. All right, got it. After hanging up, I finished my second beer and explained the situation to my friends. Well, parents aren't young forever. Better to take care of things before it's too late. Don't worry about us. Going home, they said, so I decided to leave. They may talk tough, but they are kind-hearted guys. I left money on the table, bought some drinks and chicken soup at the convenience store, and went home. Sure enough, Mom was lying on the couch, looking a bit pale. Here's your drink. Do you have a fever? Are you okay? As expected, Mom felt bad about me coming home early. She even suggested, why don't you go back out? But I declined, of course. No fever, but my head's been spinning since this afternoon. Lying down has helped a lot, though. Thanks for coming back. I'm really grateful, she said, drinking and lying down again. With the recent high temperatures, It might be heat stroke. You're not young anymore. Don't push yourself. Can't you take tomorrow off?
It's nothing serious. I'll be fine. I promise to play hide and seek with the kids tomorrow.
She said with a smile. Yes, my mom works part-time as a childcare worker. She used to be a full-time worker for decades. Even though she's part-time now, her love for children is something I, as her son, can strongly feel. In that sense, I do hope she can play with her grandkids while she's still active. Thinking about this, I fell asleep. The next day, it was the hottest day of the year, and the sun felt scorching right from the morning. I got to work, endured Morrison's usual teasing, and continued working. And then, around 2 p.m., I was called to the reception because there was a phone call for me. If it was someone from work, they would have called my work cell phone. Calling me to the company phone meant it was something else entirely, and I had no idea who it could be. When I picked up the phone, I was shocked to hear who it was.
This is Nurse Harris from the General Hospital.
A call from a nurse is never a good sign. My heart started racing as I listened. Apparently, my mom had been rushed to the hospital with severe heat stroke, and she was unconscious. I quickly returned to my office to inform my boss and leave early. But almost all the higher-ups were out, and the only one there was Morrison. I didn't have time to hesitate, so I told him, "My mom's been rushed to the hospital with heat stroke. I need to leave early, please." I knew I was leaving work in a bind, but with my mom in critical condition, I thought there was no way they'd refuse. But Morrison just half laughed and said, "Leaving work early on such short notice? That's just not acceptable in the professional world, man. It's because of this irresponsibility that you're still unmarried at 30. It wasn't a laughing matter, and anyone would leave early if a close family member was in critical condition. I couldn't believe he was bringing marriage into it again. I just got a call from the hospital. I'll make up for the inconvenience later." I pleaded.
Come on, it's just heat stroke, right? That's not gonna kill anyone. I wish you wouldn't bring your love for mommy into work.
I was at a loss for words. I wasn't a mama's boy. Anyone would rush to the hospital if their mother was critically ill. Sorry, I don't have time for this. Seeing I was getting nowhere with him, I attempted to just leave, but Morrison half laughed and said,
If you're gonna leave, you might as well quit the job.
Hearing those words, something inside me snapped. If the company was going to deny me even such important things, then I don't mind quitting at all. Understood. I replied just that and quickly left the office. I didn't look back to see what Morrison's reaction was. When I arrived at the hospital the nurse had told me about, my mom's condition had stabilized and she was resting in a regular room. She was connected to a large 4, looking very frail. When I identified myself as her son, the nurse and doctor briefly explained her condition to me. On the way back from dropping off a kid at their house, they found no one home. The child didn't have a key and couldn't get in, so my mom decided to wait with the child in front of the house. The bus was supposed to come back after dropping off other kids, but it got delayed in traffic, and my mom and the child ended up sitting outside for over an hour. The child was fine, having used an ice pack from their lunchbox and drinking water, but my mom collapsed just as the bus returned. The daycare staff came to visit and apologize, and later the child and their parent also came. They said my mom would be fine, so I tried to handle everything calmly and sat next to her bed once the visitors had left. Looking at my mom lying in the bed, I realized how much she had aged, though she was always so energetic. The wrinkles around her eyes, which weren't there a few years ago, made my heart ache. I stayed until visiting hours ended at 6 p.m., but she didn't wake up. The doctor said not to worry, but I was still quite concerned. I hoped she would wake up tomorrow. Thinking this, I got home and was blankly staring at the sofa when the doorbell rang. For a moment, I wondered if I was hearing things out of worry for my mom. But the intercom was lit, so I responded, yes. To my surprise, the screen showed an unexpected visitor. Morrison. I knew he could find my address through the company, but I had no idea why he would come. Was he here to taunt me, even at a time like this? Had my agreement to quitting been taken seriously? Reluctantly, I opened the door to find Morrison standing there with a woman holding a baby and a little girl, about kindergarten age. While Morrison looked somewhat embarrassed, the woman and girl bowed deeply, prompting me to bow in return. I hadn't been told anything, but they were probably Morrison's family. I wondered why Morrison would bring his family to my house. While I was increasingly puzzled, I invited them in anyway. I only have coffee. Thinking I should offer something, I said that, but his wife quickly responded, "No, please, we just came to apologize. Don't worry about it." So, we all sat on the sofa. I had no idea what they were going to say, but the words that came out of Mrs. Morrison's mouth were totally unexpected.
Thank you so much for helping our daughter today.
What? I was surprised and let out such a sound, but as I pieced together the events of the day, I began to understand. This young girl, probably Morrison's daughter, was the child who had waited with my mom for her parents to return.
My husband was supposed to be home early this afternoon for our younger daughter's checkup, but he forgot, and Mrs. Johnson stayed with our daughter because she couldn't get inside the house. She gave all her cooling gel packs and drinks, which she always carries for preventing heat stroke, to our daughter, insisting she was fine. And to think it led to this. I'm so sorry,
she said, visibly shaking, with her daughter close to tears. Morrison also looked uncomfortable, so feeling unable to bear the atmosphere, I forced a smile and said, "No, it turned out okay in the end, so please don't worry about it. Thank you very much for coming to my home." Though I was told she was okay, my mom still hadn't woken up. I couldn't be completely at ease, but I didn't want to keep burdening another family with guilt. As they were leaving, Morrison spoke to me.
I'm sorry for how I spoke earlier. Your mother risked herself to protect my daughter, and I, not understanding a sin's feelings more than you who are unmarried, was the worst as both a father and a person. I hope you'll come back to work once your mom recovers.
I had never seen Morrison in such a humble state. Was he scolded harshly by his wife? Or did he realize the gravity of the situation as a father himself? I wasn't sure, but his words somehow eased my tense heart. "Yes, thank you." Despite my previous dislike for him, I surprisingly found myself responding that way. Perhaps it was seeing a more human side of a boss I only knew from work. Somehow, I felt like things would work out better from now on. The next day, my mom finally woke up. She had slept for over 15 hours, apparently exhausted, but the 4 fluids had worked, and she was much better. So, I returned to work 3 days later. Morrison hasn't made any snide remarks since then. In fact, he's been quite timid around me. It's clear he values his family a lot. Seeing that, I've started to feel more of a desire to have my own children. I'm planning to go to a group date set up by a colleague for the first time. Hopefully, in the near future, I'll be able to show my mom her grandchildren. I just need to make sure they're careful about heat stroke and let them have all the fun they want.